So today we're going to talk about stranded knitting, also referred to as ferile. Ferile is a form of stranded knitting. And what stranded means is when you do this color work, you have strands of color running along the back side or the wrong side of your work. And that is in lieu of having bobbins of yarn hanging down where you change color through that. So you get these little strands. This actually gives you extra warmth and is one of the reasons it was developed is you have like a double thick layer. So it's kind of cool for that reason. It's very easy to do in the round. It's a little more complicated to do flat, which is why many things that have a ferile motif or a stranded motif are knit in the round, and if they need to be flat are then cut or steeked later. We're not going to talk more about that today. We're just going to talk about how to do this. The easiest way to do stranded knitting is to actually use both of your colors in two different hands. So ideally, you want to keep your motif color in your left hand, and you want to keep the base color in your right hand. And so that means your motif color, you are going to be working continental, and your main color, you're going to be working throwing. If you do not know how to do one or the other, then you're going to have to learn that style. And almost everybody has to learn one style, and this is one of the best ways of doing it because you're doing something that's harder, and so you have more to think about. So I have a very simple chart, and I'm just going to point to that chart real quick. Our chart is, and I've spaced our stitches such that we have to actually pick up our strands, or catch our strands, our floats as they're called, on the back side. So I'm going to show you how to do that as we knit. So, and you can kind of see that they are a little bit caught up right in there. So you don't have a single strand that's really looping greatly so that fingers get caught in them. Okay, so here it is. We are working on now row 1 of our chart. So my first stitch was a motif color, and I've gone ahead and knit that just to keep my marker in place. And my next stitch is a right hand color. So I'm going to knit 1, 2, and 3. I want to catch floats every third, right? Or knit 3, work 3 stitches, and then catch a float. On this one, the float that I'm catching is the one that I'm not knitting. So the float that I'm catching is the one that is in my left hand. So I'm going to insert into that stitch as if I were going to knit it. I'm going to wrap my motif yarn incorrectly. Normally when we wrap to knit, we wrap over top of the needle this way. We're actually going to wrap it backwards. We're then going to wrap correctly with our regular color and unwrap with the motif color. So if you look, it doesn't really even necessarily feel like it's caught. It's just hanging right there, but it's perfect. It's exactly what you want. And you finish that stitch. Then we're going to knit 1 of our motif color, and then 2 motif, and 3, and now the one that we're going to catch is our right hand. So I'm going to come all the way around, and I want you to note that what I've done is I've really spread apart the stitches on my right hand needle. I can keep the stitches on my left hand needle all squished up, but on my right hand needle they need to be spread out so that my floats aren't too short. I'm going to take that yarn and wrap it correctly, take my motif color, wrap it correctly, and unwrap my regular yarn. And that gives me 1 more of that color. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. And now I'm going to spread apart again because I have at least a little bit of a float I'm going to make. And I'm going to knit 1, and 2, and 3. And now I'm going to catch a float again. I'm going to spread my stitches nice and wide. I'm going to insert into that stitch, wrap incorrectly with my motif correct color, wrap correctly with my blue, and be done. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, and now I'm going to knit 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to catch this float again. So I'm going to wrap correctly, but unwrap. And that yarn is right there. And I'm just going to show you again what that backside looks like. So it never looks great while you're knitting it, I'm just going to tell you right now, but once you've blocked this and you kind of spread these stitches out a little bit, the back side can be as interesting and as pretty as the front side. This happens to be a bulky yarn, because it's easier to demonstrate with, and I'm still wrapping every third stitch. With a bulky yarn, I might even do it every 2 stitches, but generally speaking, with worsted weight yarn and even a little bit smaller, you don't want to go more than 4 or 5 stitches total without wrapping. The bulkier the yarn, the shorter your wrap should be, so that the fewer stitches you should work in between. So hopefully that helps you a little bit on how to do the 2-color stranded and how to pick up floats. Thanks.